It's time to learn how to run commands in Tana. In this lesson, we will learn the three main ways that we have to run commands and execute actions inside Tana. And these are the buttons, the command line, and the automated triggers. Now, this means that we have three different ways to run commands, and this gives us a lot of flexibility and opportunities to design how to run these commands inside Tana. But the counterpart is that by having different ways to run commands, we have to understand them in order to really benefit from these commands. So let's take a look at some practical examples to really understand these different ways to run commands. So for this, we are going to use a familiar command that we have seen in a previous lesson, and that is the onboarding command. So as we know, this will set the type of this meeting to onboarding. And here I want to illustrate the three different ways that we can run the same command on three different meetings. So let's start with buttons. Buttons appear at the side of a node, and when you click that, it's going to execute the command. This is what we have already seen in previous lessons. So as we click this command, we have no surprise here to see that this command is successfully run and the type field is set to onboarding. Now let's dive into these two other ways to run commands, starting with the command line. We have quickly touched upon this topic on a previous video, but now I want to really explain what the command line does and why it is so important in Tana. But first, let's start with a simple example here. Using the command line, we can run any command node that we have configured in Tana. So let's do this for this familiar onboarding command. So let's hit Command+K to open the command line, and let's type in onboarding. So here you can see that this command shows up the same that we ran in the previous meeting. So let's click this. And now you will see that we have just executed this command using a different way, which is the command line. Now we do have some more information to talk about the command line, but first let's take a look at this third and final way that we have to run these commands. And this is using triggers. So triggers are going to run a command by a specific trigger event. So in this case, we have specified that this command onboarding should be run whenever this onboarding tag is added. So let's configure this tag and understand what this means in this configuration. Here in the AI and commands section, this is where we configure our commands. So if we scroll down, you will see that we have configured this specific onboarding command to be run whenever this trigger event of onTagAdded happens. So what this means is that whenever the onboarding tag is added, this onboarding command is going to be run. So let's test it out in this example meeting. So whenever I type in hashtag and onboarding, I can add this tag, and when we click this, you will see that the onboarding command is going to be run just as with the previous examples. So here we go. You can see that the type has also been set to onboarding. So this illustrates this final way to run commands, which is using command triggers. We will be talking more about buttons and triggers in the next lesson, so don't worry, this is just an introduction to get you started. Now let's talk more about this very important feature in Tana, which is the command line. So Tana has a command line that gives you access to all of the actions that you can perform in Tana. So to open the command line, you have to click Command+K in Mac or Control+K in Windows. And when you do this, you will be prompted by this menu where you can type in different commands, or you can scroll and choose from this huge list of possibilities. So what the command line allows you to do is to run both previous command nodes that you have already configured, as we've seen with the onboarding example, but also several different pre-configured actions that Tana has made available in the command line. So here you see different examples such as changing the view type, moving a node, adding a tag, and even creating a search node. So let's look at some examples here in order to make this practical. Here in the bottom, you will see that I have created a search node for all of the meetings, and here we are already seeing this in a table view. So what we will do now is use only the command line to create another version of this search. So let's start by opening the command line using Command+K in Mac and typing in find nodes. From here, whenever you hit enter or click on that selection, you will be prompted to the next phase of this find nodes command. And in this case, I want to find the nodes or create a search to find these nodes with a tag of meeting. So I'm going to select the with tag and I'm going to type in meeting. So this will help me choose this meeting tag, and from here I can even add more specifications such as other filters in this search using the field, using other tags, or using the text. But now I want to just create this as a plain list. So whenever I hit enter, now you can see we have this list of nodes tagged as meeting. And from here, we can run other command line commands in this same node. So let's take a look at this example where we can expand these different meetings. So whenever we run this command, here you can see all of these meetings are now expanded, and we can look at the material inside of them. But now this may not be what we wanted, so let's collapse all of these again. And here we have an interesting command, which is the collapse children. And when I run this, you will see that all of the children in this node are now collapsed following the command line execution. And as a final example here, let's also change the view type for this search. So let's hit Command+K again, and this type I'm going to simply click the view as table command. As you can see, it's already available and visible in this first page of the menu, so I don't even need to type anything. I can just click this and this command will also be executed. Here I can also remove and hide some of these columns if I want to, and now I have the exact visualization that I wanted for these meetings. And as we've seen, we didn't use any command node, and we didn't even use the user interface or our mouse. We did everything using the command line. So this goes to illustrate just how powerful the command line can be in Tana, knowing that we can do even more powerful things using the command line. Now there's also another interesting concept that I want to mention here, and that is that you can use command line commands inside a command node. So let's take a quick look at these two examples, first in the definition and then in the actual example to see them in action. Here you can see that we have created two command nodes. One of them is going to collapse all meetings and the other one is going to expand all meetings. Let's look at their definition. Here you can see we are using a system command called run a command line command. And here, whenever you edit this, there's only one parameter, which is which command do we want to run. And here we chose the collapse children command, which we have already seen in action. And this is how we can configure a command line command inside a command node. Now let's look at this other example before we run them in practice. And here you can see we are using a very similar configuration where we have the run a command line command, system command, and here the parameter commands is set with the expand children value. And here it's worth mentioning that this command must be letter for letter identical to the one that you can find in the command line. So in order to guarantee that this is correct, I would usually open the command line using Command+K, and I would type in expand children and compare these two to make sure that we are adding the perfectly correct text here in this parameter. In this case, it's all good. We are using the correct spelling, so we can close the command line. And now let's see these two in action. Here inside this search, we have already configured these two command nodes inside this search. So let's first try to expand all of the meetings and see what this looks like. And here you can see that all of these meetings are now expanded. And from here, we can easily now collapse these meetings. We will see everything come back to their collapsed state, which is now much neater and easier to interpret. So this is an illustration of how to use these command line commands inside command nodes. And now you might be wondering, whoa, that is a lot of information with several different terms and different ways to run these commands. So this is a good time to pause and take a quick look at where we are now. So this is probably what you're feeling right now, and it's, wait, what? Because command line commands can be run inside command nodes using a specific system command called run command line command. So that's a lot of commands, and I'm sure this is starting to make sense, but it's still probably a little confusing. So let's take a quick look at what we've seen so far, because this is the foundation of how to use commands in Tana. So let's make sure that everything is clear. Here we have three command types, which is the command node, which is our familiar commands, which we have been playing with in all of these lessons. So command nodes are where we can configure and customize our commands, where we can use these system commands. And here it's worth noting that system commands belong inside a command node. So here you can see we have this run a command line system command, which brings us to this third type of a command, which is the one we've covered in this lesson, which is the command from the command line. And here we have several possibilities, as we've seen by running the Command+K or Control+K shortcut. And these are all different actions that you can do in Tana that don't necessarily need a command node or a system command. Oftentimes, there will be parallels because there is a system command to move a node, and you can also use the command line to move a node as well. So this means that in Tana, you usually have different ways to achieve the same outcome. This is important to keep in mind, and it's also important to not worry too much about this. Let's focus on one method. Let's get familiar with whatever works best for you, and everything will make more sense as we progress. So given these three different types of commands, we have also seen now that there are different ways to run these commands. And here we have the buttons, which appear by the side of a node, the command line, which is using the Command+K to select the command node, and the triggers, which run these commands automatically based on specific events. And as we will see in the next lesson, we also have the node filters, which we've talked about briefly, but we will be going into more details to understand how the node filter can help us configure buttons, triggers, and even the commands that show up in the command line. So this is it for this video. Now let's move on to the next one, where we will be covering in much more detail how to use buttons and how to use triggers to run your commands. Hey there, I hope you are enjoying and learning a lot from these lessons. And if you are, I would like to invite you to check out the interactive learning kit that accompanies this course. By purchasing this, you're not only supporting my work, you're also getting access to the interactive Tana workspace that you see in these videos with the commands, configurations, lesson material, and some extra benefits to help you learn faster and have a premium experience using Tana commands. So check it out and learn more using the link in the description below or by scanning the QR code that you can see in your screen. Good learning, and I'll see you in the next lesson.